if we can, let's show the standings for Group F, and then we're going to dive into the match and how Canada might change. So heading into match day 2 for Group F, Belgium, of course, lead with a 1-0 victory over Canada. Croatia and Morocco both drew 0-0, Canada losing by a goal to 0. And something else to keep in mind for the match against Croatia tomorrow, Alphonso Davies and Alistair Johnston both on cautions for the Canadians. With all of that said, Oliver Platt, let's shift this conversation where it deserves to be, and that is tactically. How do you think that John Herdman is going to change the game plan, if anything, from Belgium to Croatia?
I suspect he'll do one of two things. KJ touched on it a moment ago. I think he'll either bring in a third midfielder because you have to match up with Croatia in that area, or he'll go to a 4-4-2 with David and Larin because those two are so good defensively at chipping in and helping the midfield, right? And so you can have, we've seen it before when they've played against a team in a 4-3-3, one of the strikers drops onto the deepest midfielder and helps the midfield in that regard. So I suspect they'll do that. I don't think they can go with the same way they played in the first game and just kind of leave Eustachio and Hutchinson to deal with three world-class midfielders. There's going to need to be another solution there. I'm just not sure whether it's someone like Osorio coming into the midfields or going with two strikers and having one of them drop onto Brozovic out of possession. But that will be the key, I think, for Canada is trying to congest that area and then exploit what I think is an advantage, to be honest, in the wide areas when you look at the quality the Canadians have.
Gareth?
I'll leave most of this to KJ and Jordan to say, but John Herdman has made public comments about how he and his coaching staff felt like they were going to jump out of a window while they were watching the Croatian midfield operate in terms of their scouting. That tells me everything I need to know in terms of where the focus will be. So defensively, no time, no space. I think that Morocco did a nice job at doing that. Amrabat in the midfield was excellent. Can you apply that pressure? You know, Hutchinson's clearly a 60-minute player now. He's not going to be able to go 90. We'll see who Herdman might add to that area of the field. Like, there's no obvious option there. And in terms of attack, KJ said just down the flanks, the pace down the flanks is an area where Canada is at their best. And that's an area where I think they can expose this Croatian team. If you can sucker them in, I think they need to be a little bit more picky in terms of when they go and press. But when they get it right, they can get out and run. This needs to be a controlled game. And if you can, in those moments where it gets a little bit wide open or frenetic, then that's where I think Canada can really be at their best and cause a threat.
Christian, to you, and if you would, sorry, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Jordan.
Sorry, quickly. I was just going to add to what Wheel said. I said in those moments too, Wheels, when the tempo drops from Croatia's building and they're connecting passes, that's just the moment not to concede for Canada. Right, when they're connecting, and you can't stop a Luka Modric getting on the ball, or Rakitic getting on the ball. When that happens, it's what we talked about last time. It's like Victoria, back line, make sure you're ready to track runners, ready to keep the line high. That's not the time to concede. We know, Canada knows we're dangerous going forward. We're dangerous when we break. That is the time to create something. But conversely, when they have the ball, that is the time to be aware and switch on.
No more Rakitic. Rakitic is gone from the team.
Rakitic, holy smokes, bro.
Sorry, KJ, Jordan sort of read my mind into where I wanted to go with this. So obviously a chance for you to speak to the game plan, but also what's your one big reason why you think Canada can take points off of Croatia tomorrow?
Well, because they're always the same version of themselves. They never let moments change who they are. And I think as much as we're talking about changes and defensively what they're going to do, I do think that they're still, they're not going to play 10 men behind the ball, guys, and just, and hope for 30%, possession and then dominate that way. Like it's going to be difficult to get the ball from them, but they've got to be effective when they do. So it'd be interesting to see how many changes they make. I do think Jonathan David's defensive capabilities can allow them to really maybe not play an extra midfielder. Maybe he drops in a little bit more, and then you play two attacking fast players, whether that be a Buchanan and Davies beyond. Maybe Sam Adekubi comes in, or maybe you play Larea on the left-hand side. And then the other thing, the other change I would think that could potentially happen here is I think Sam Piette could play instead of Atiba Hutchinson. I know that Atiba has not played a lot of minutes lately. And if I want Atiba on the pitch delivering what he can deliver, I think I want him in the last 30 minutes. He started to really tire after about 45, 50 minutes the other night. Piet didn't get a moment. And John Herdman has said this before with players. Sometimes he's given little clues. He doesn't play them in a game because he says, this is your mission. This is your moment for this game. And I wonder whether Piet has been given that kind of ultimatum and said, you go out there and deliver. So just a couple of things to think about. I know it would be a big ask. And a big, maybe a brave thing to do. But Atiba Hutchinson physically to play again against this Croatia team could also be a challenge. I mean, Atiba could do it, but I just think that might be potentially something they're thinking of.
KJ, I was thinking the exact same thing when Piet didn't come on last game, because I understand that you were pushing for a goal and that, but they changed their shape, and Piet could have sat in, and you could have maybe brought on something else. I just. That kind of struck a chord with me, because you're right. He says this player is this mission, and this will be planned out weeks in advance, right? So it's not a surprise. I think it's a good shout.
Yeah, you want a bulldog or a bulldozer in midfield against a team like Croatia. Sami Piet definitely is that profile. Oliver Platt, you're one big reason why you think Canada can take some points off the Croatians.
Because they have players to hurt them. It's the same thing, I think, against Belgium. They're different teams and different profiles of teams, but you look at the matchups in the wide areas in particular again, and you believe that players like Alphonso Davies and Tejan Buchanan can cause Croatia problems. I don't think there's any question about that. So once again, it's going to be that balance of risk reward and managing all of the threats that Croatia have to offer. But I do think that Canada, when you look at players who can really hurt you in the wide areas, one-on-one, running at people, I think there's more of those on the Canadian team, to be honest, than there is on the Croatian team, who looks a bit blunt in the final third in that first match. So it's that kind of firepower that gives you hope, I think, that Canada can get something.
All right, Jordan, take us home. Motivate the country. One big reason.
I think football is about matchups. I think strictly what we're seeing in this tournament more than ever is that the game is won or lost in and around the box. So outside of everything, Canada needs to be clinical tomorrow and just break the ice. When you're playing 21, I don't know if you guys are ballers, but you just have to break your ice for the points to start counting. This is what Canada needs to do. You get that first goal, you just get that monkey off your back, you can breathe. But we are just so dangerous on the counter and have so many youthful players that want to express themselves. A player to score tomorrow, it just says, we can do this at this world stage. And I promise you, Croatia will be shaking in their boots.
Can't wait for the celebration. That
shooting stroke from Jordan was something else. And to be fair, the Canadians have been playing basketball in training, staying loose. So maybe
hit the backboard and came in.